Okay, so this might be short, but I thought the content would be captivating enough to be worthy to post. My house is a small house in the suburbs, occupied by a majority of old people and the occasional college student. It's a one-story house, but the attic has been converted into two separate rooms. The stairs lead up to my brother's room, and that leads directly into my room. There is no door or anything like that. So my routine usually consists of school from 8 to 4, I get home, do homework, for about an hour, do whatever shit I deem necessary at the time, and at around 8:30 my brothers go to bed. I'm usually in my room when they go to bed, either playing guitar or video games. In order for them to sleep, I go downstairs and watch TV until around 10, when I go back upstairs to read and then sleep. I usually leave my lights on when my brothers go to bed, because first of all, they enjoy the lighting to ease them into slumber, and second, it's much easier for me to make my way back upstairs there later. So, one night, I go upstairs, I climb in bed, pick up Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell. It's my third time reading this piece of art, and start reading. Usual routine done, check on a successful day. Except for some reason, I didn't feel right. I remember this very vividly because it was the first time I felt something this intense, yet so irrational, or so it seemed. I had a burning sensation that someone was watching me, like one of those feelings where you saw something you weren't supposed to see, and you just hope to God there was no consequences for you seeing it. I felt like I saw someone. I felt like I had seen someone in the shadows, but hoped they hadn't realized I noticed them, so I had more time to escape. But the thing was, I hadn't seen anyone. There was no reason for this primal sense of dread to be kicking in, but it was. So, I'm sure you're very aware of this description where, you know, like the hairs on the back of your neck stand up. Yeah, exactly like that. I had that feeling, but it's so much scarier than I can describe the impending doom where you know you're about to have to run from something unseen, but there is no apparent reason why. And yet, every sense is heightened to the point where I could hear my brother's breathing. I put the book down, turned off the AC unit so I could hear everything, and stared back into the black of my brother's room, looking for the source of my delirium. This is when I almost shit myself. So my brothers have a mirror in the back of their room next to the window. It's a big old oval mirror about 5 feet tall, and it rests on these hinges that tilt it up and down. They would play with it sometimes with a flashlight pointed at it, and try to shine it in my face from their room. The mirror is so damn heavy, it's a heavy piece of work. It's heavy enough that it naturally leans at about 35 degrees angles from the ground, and if you want to stand it vertical, you have to get on your knees and tighten these twist-by hand screws to get the things to defy gravity, and keep it upright for maybe 15 minutes. Now my brothers had been asleep for about 2.5 hours at this point. This will be pertinent in a bit. I'm sitting in my room in the dead silence, staring into their pitch black room, and I see the mirror slowly start tilting backwards to reveal myself, sitting in my bed, eyes wide open. It was the scariest moment of my life, sitting there waiting for something to come out of the shadows, and then all I see is me. There's no way that it could have just been gravity, because I played with that mirror before out of sheer boredom, twisting it as hard as I can, and it only stays upright for a max about 15 minutes. As soon as I saw the movement, I nailed the shit out of there. I jumped over the stairwell divider and ran down the stairs, skipping every other step as I went down. I went and laid on the couch on the living room, terrified out of my mind. The living room is located directly below my brother's room. Looking back on this is the scariest part. I'll get to this later. I lay there shaking, just trying to put it out of my mind. Nothing happened for the rest of the night, and eventually I convinced myself that I had to go to sleep so I could go to school the next day, and that's what I did. When I got home, I told my parents what happened. As we investigated, we noticed that the plastic accordion-like cover for my brother's windows, where the AC unit didn't cover, had been opened so as to be able to fit something approximately the size of a baseball or a hand. My dad started getting antsy at this and went to the roof to check the other side of the window. When he came back down, I asked him what was up, and all he told me was that me and my brothers will be sleeping downstairs in the guest room for a couple of nights. He clearly saw something disconcerting up there. Later, I overheard him and my mother talking about the situation and the necessity of motion sensors in the backyard. When she asked why, he told her that he had seen muddy boot prints on the roof and 2 hard indentations in the shingles, as if a ladder had been placed there and removed. He said they weren't fresh either. It had been a reoccurring incident. Like I said, I think the most terrifying part is the fact that I went into the room under the room that someone was peering in, and the couch is placed against the wall that the ladder would have been on the other side of. They were right there. I'm just glad that this is my senior year, and I'll be moving away from this soon, but the chance strikes for it to happen again. Okay, I'm writing this due to the occurrence that happened to me personally in my home. If you haven't read my story on the file, you can catch that there. This is an evidence-based dissection of the probability that a theory posted in the comments of my previous story may be true. As in the last story, and in the rules stated by the subreddit, everything is true, and I'm posting this only in hopes that someone may be able to help me figure this out. So, one of the viewers brought to my attention the possibility that this is someone I know. This got me thinking who it could be. Like I said in my previous work, my neighborhood is full of a majority population of old people. I don't really know any of the people in my neighborhood personally. Like I don't go to neighborhood meetings, participate in block parties, or even know if anything like that even happens. The point is, I've only had a few interactions with the people in my area. Several of these people are questionable, I think. First off, we have our next door neighbors. It's a family of 7, 5 kids, 2 parents. They definitely have the accessibility, but I honestly don't think it would have been one of them, but who knows. They lived here for longer than my family has been here, and they definitely give me a creepy vibe. At least the parents do. They are extremely conserved and quiet, keeping to themselves. They leave for months at a time on trips. I think their last one was to New York. The last important thing about them is their religion. They are extremely religious, partly to fault, I think. The kids are just kids, although several times one of my brothers have come home crying because Abraham, the second eldest, had told him he was going to hell for what he's done. But the parents just creep me out. They seem nice and all, but there's just something off about them. Maybe it's the fact that the mother will whistle to her kids to come back inside, which I always found disturbing. Her kids just stop doing whatever they're doing and walk back inside, saying nothing. I just don't know. They seem fine and all, and they definitely haven't done anything to make me question my trust of them, but there's just something about those parents, you know? Like one day, they just snap and lock their kids in the basement forever. I don't know. I don't want to jump to any conclusions, okay? So there's this crazy lady about 4 houses down from me. When I was about 16, 17 now, my grandpa set me up with his old mower and everything. He runs his own handyman sort of business, so he just referred to me as one of his previous clients. One of my first lawns was this old lady on the streets. When I got there, everything seemed fine. She was a nice old lady that brought me water while I worked and really seemed to like me, I guess. She was damn talkative. She talked so much to the point that if I didn't interrupt her, that I would be getting home after dark. So I reluctantly started up the mower in the middle of her talking. Everything went fine except for this really annoying tree in the front that was a pain in the ass to maneuver around. She paid and I went home. I only mowed her lawn 2 more times until something came up. The second time was easy, except for this really messed up thing that happened at the beginning. I knocked on her door and to my horror, she opened it, revealing herself naked, save for a towel wrapped around her. Thankfully, she wasn't trying to do anything sexual. She's just a crazy old lady who answers her door naked sometimes. I mowed her lawn and was paid. The third time was different. At least I was paid differently. She wasn't home, so she just left me a 20 under her flower pot on the front porch. I'd say this was the easiest one only because she wasn't there to cause any problems. This was the last time I mowed her lawn. She didn't fire me or do anything majorly out of the ordinary to scare me away. And the thing she did meant no harm. She just stopped paying me. I went over there the next week and she wasn't there, so I checked the flower pot, nothing. There are only 2 other people I can think of that could be suspects. The house to the other side of mine and the one across the streets. The house to the right of mine is inhabited by a small family with a grown mentally disabled son. I barely see them out, but when I do, they seem to be very loving of their son, but he creeps me out. I don't want to seem rude, but I definitely would never try and make anyone feel bad about their disability if they did have one, but he freaks me out. And I'm near damn certain it's not because of his disability. I've seen him staring at me before, not that often, and not like in a weird cinematic way like you see in the movies, like he wasn't staring into my soul or whatever. Once I took him to ride his bike, the whole time he just looked at me. His attention didn't shift from me once. His parents guided him on the road and he stared at me with a straight face. I think the weirdest part was the parents didn't pay any attention to it. They seemed not to care, as if it was what he was supposed to be doing. Weird. If you have any thoughts, please post it in the comments section. As the days go on, I'm more and more scared and worried for the safety of me and my family. Hopefully we can solve this soon. Thank you. It wasn't him. And by him, I mean the disabled man in the house next to mine. And to be honest, I feel pretty terrible for thinking it was him. I've been receiving comments suggesting I should go over and visit several houses with a note to try and match handwriting. I thought about it, and seeing it's not really the parents' fault that their son would be acting up, they probably would be more willing to be helpful. So me and a couple of friends went over to the house to the right of me, the one belonging to the family caring for the man with a learning disability. I rang the doorbell, nothing. Maybe they didn't hear it. I tried again, nothing again. I tried several more times, but after about 10 minutes of no response, we decided to go over to the house of the religious family. They answered, and I got this feeling we weren't supposed to be there. I could feel them looking at me more than I usually could. I don't know how to explain it. They were very reasonable and kind, and I gently asked them if they knew where the family 2 houses down was. I was expecting them to say they were gone and they would be back soon, but they just looked confused. The mom sort of tilted her head and said, "You didn't know? They moved away." I had a brief moment of relief, but as reality came back, I asked when they left. She told me about a month ago. My heart sank. I realize now, going over my previous post, that I forgot to tell you guys that when this all started, I didn't think it was necessary at this time to point out the night that I experienced whoever was watching me was a little over a week ago. There was no way he could have been doing this then. That brings the question, who did it? I don't think that the parents I talked to would have done it, but it would be quite obvious that they were trying to frame the man with learning disabilities. Like, why else would they write like that in that strained handwriting? And with him out of state, this would be a stupid time to do this. And they wouldn't have been so straightforward with me. The old lady is still a possibility in my mind. She has done some questionable things, and seems lonely and bored enough to possibly develop a fixation, but she is old, and I don't necessarily know the extent of her physical health, but most people above the age of 50 are definitely going to have a hard time accessing, let alone climbing a ladder. But I reiterate that her mental health is definitely a state in which she could do something like this if she put her mind to it. Okay? We have about 5 pieces of evidence to go off of here. We have the ladder, someone capable of transporting it to my house, and climbing it to the roof. We have the boot prints. There's not too much to go off on here, but there are definite marks around 10 inches in length. There's a strangeness of the situation too, like, who would even think to stick their hands through my window and mess with a mirror? It doesn't sound like the most mentally stable could think of something like that. Then the note, written on a scrap of cardboard, God knows why, is a message written in the handwriting that seems to be that of either a child or a mentally challenged person. If they're actually trying to scare me, then the handwriting and lack of punctuation could be an attempt to be creepy. Can I talk to you? I have no idea why. This is what they decide to write. Of course, this will not make me want to talk. I don't ever want to see whoever this is. Is their goal to freak me out? Well done. But what comes next? I keep going back to this pretty good horror flick on Netflix called Creep. It's a story about a creepy delusional dude who puts out a Craigslist or whatever website ad for this guy to come over to his house to film him for like $2,000 I think. 1K before and then 1 after, and the entire time he makes an effort to freak the dude out, but in the end he ends up killing the dude. So I don't know whether or not to be worried for my life. I have no clue to the extent of this person's ability to harm me, or even if they are a malevolent person. I don't know everyone in my neighborhood, so I have no clue whether or not the person in question is one of the people I know. I've read that it is usually a person you know that would stalk you, but there's no doubt in my mind that that isn't the only case. I'm worried. I don't know where to start looking, and I don't feel safe going back home tonight. I will be sleeping in my house with 3 of my closest friends. With proper defense and knowledge of the situation, we won't be splitting up, and we'll be sleeping in cycles, or not sleeping at all. Most likely the latter. We'll keep the lights on, and we'll stay on guard the entire night. I'll keep you updated if anything happens.